Hello, everyone, and welcome to NYFA Photo Events. Today, we're proud to present Mike Troast. Amid AI turmoil, Mike Troast is a refreshing, one-of-a-kind photo maker. His work remains unruled by Photoshop, which makes him totally dependent on the elements of surprise and chance. He embraces his profession in a way that frees him from the oppressive thinking that commercial work is simply a service industry. He also knows his way around creative problem solving and prides himself on the happy accidents that make memorable images. Although he has worked with huge clients for years, Mike is also humble enough to still assist other photographers if he feels he has something to learn from them. He says, the easy part is taking the photo. The hard part is everything that comes before it. So Mike, turning it over to you now. We're here to help.
Hey everybody, Mike Troast here. Mike, how you doing? Want to just start going through my stuff here. First things first, like really happy to be here, really excited here in New York City. 13-year-old me, if you ask me what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a professional photographer, and I've gotten to live my dream now, and I really don't know what else I'd rather be doing. And as Nancy said, with AI, I'm just going to follow this to the end and then figure out what's next. And like, I hope you guys enjoy this. So first we're going to start with my mantras here is, I'm happy to wake up every day. I really am. It's like, if I wake up in a bad mood, it doesn't help anything. I just really, really enjoy being here. And then it'll work or it won't. Like, life's really 50-50. Even if things kind of work out, it's a win. Not everything always goes as planned, and there's no reason you start out with doubt. I've been a photographer since I was 12, and my first camera was a Pentax King 1000, came from my uncle. And by 13, I had a darkroom I built from yard sale stuff. Spent my 9th grade summer at FIT studying studio photography. Got to skateboard, just going and spray painting on things, taking pictures of street life. You just go home and process film and just get to go home, develop stuff. And, you stick your finger in the water at 68 degrees, you knew it. Like, you could hit it every time. And it was a blessing. Then there was a seismic shift in technology, and school couldn't keep up with it. So I just started working. This was 1996. It was a transition from traditional design to computer desktop publishing. So the schools didn't know what to do. So I just went and worked. So I went out to, was working in the Hamptons, and I finally got the call to come move to New York City. It's 2000, went to Gotham magazine, just learning everything I could along the way. Really lucky I got tapped to help launch Complex magazine 2002. Photo editor was a great guy, buddy Matt Doyle, really good photographer, portrait guy, taught me a ton about studio. And we had to shoot everything ourselves. We just were, a couple guys in a room making a magazine about hip hop, and it was just great. We had no money, but we got to work with some great photographers. Got to work with Robert Maxwell, John Mannion, Nigel Cox, Jamil GS, and you just picked up the pieces. You were like, no problem, I got that, and that was your way of life. Just always ready to help, always ready to learn something, and just being excited to be on set. You never knew who you're going to run into. So then opportunity knocks again. I moved out to California to go to Fox Racing, ran an in-house photo studio out there, and had a good time, learned a lot of stuff. Called back up, hey, move back to New York City. So moved back to work in an ad agency. I ran production, had a couple kids, got married. There for 13 years. I got to work with some really top level photographers. We had budgets from, hey, can you shoot my restaurant menu to shooting Super Bowl spots? So it was really great. Got to learn the business of it. Got to learn a little about cash flow. Got to learn just about managing clients and being on the agency side. And then we were bought by IBM, and I was laid off. And if you notice, there's no work from these days in these slides because I learned a thing about redundancy. It was, all my work was on our servers, and because we were bought and then sold, they didn't care about our work. So everybody I was at the company I could ask my work for, it didn't exist anymore. The server died. They didn't want to pay to resurrect it. So I had lost about 16, 17 years of work. And it was kind of freeing, actually, because you know, it wasn't about what I was, it's about what I was going to be. So then I started making lemons into lemonade. You know, I was, what am I going to do? I went and took a job in New Jersey, in Hoboken, ran a e-commerce studio, and I shot about 180 days a year, little no budget. Designed, built the sets, had to shoot. We worked through COVID, and we're the only non-manufacturing department in a 35,000 person company required to be in office. So there's about 4 or 5 of us just using employees' kids as talent, using whatever office space we have, whatever we could find and shoot, because nobody was checking permits, so we could just kind of do whatever we wanted to do. And play our reel from this time. Disregard the music, it wasn't my choice. And it kind of kept us sane. You know, we got to really still be creative and see people where so many people weren't getting to be creative. So it was kind of fun because we really got to take art and commerce and mix it together. You know, and then my contract ended over there, and I just kind of rolled the dice again. I went and came and got a studio in Chinatown. Just had a good attitude about it, and 25 years of contacts, never say die attitude, and I just went for it. You know, he said like this, like, just have fun with it. None of this is rocket science. It's really not. You're taking photos and just kind of enjoying life. So I'm going to take you through some of my more recent work. Let's see, I have here. This was some fun stuff I got to shoot. You know, I started calling people up from my agency days, and who did I know? I knew people who are now creative directors, you know, brand managers, and people I'd known for, you know, 15, 20, 25 years who started out the same place I did. And it was good to look back and realize that, like, you know, people I had never burned knew that I was going to do what I'd say I was going to do. So this body armor job, it was great. And they took a chance on me. So I was like, yeah, I can shoot this, whatever. And I, you know, did an estimate, came up with stuff. I called great splash stylists I worked with in the past, and we just like, this is our idea, let's do it. I was like, yeah, no problem. And it was fun. Like, it's really fun. You know, it's part of this is the craft, you know, and this is where I think AI is going to be the drain, is because we're going to lose these people who know very specific skills, like making liquid splash a certain way, or rigging a coconut to look like it's floating, so that we can kind of get everything in camera without having to just tell your computer to prompt it to do this. some other stuff, just, really, it's kind of fun. It's every day you never know what you're gonna do. Somebody says, oh, I have no budget. I have a coffee company. We're launching this toasted coconut flavor. What do you want to do with it? I'm like, I don't know. Let me, figure it out and start to, this was drilled a little hole in the back of the can and took a hose and put some coffee in it and made myself a little pouring coffee rig. And it was something I'd never done before, but it was kind of a fun exercise. Now, sorry for the noise. We're on Orchard Street here. Peanut butter, same thing. Just, we're going to shoot some peanut butter. No problem. And I try to just capture shadows and light and reflections and have things feel like they're grounded in real space. I feel like your light should make sense. And it's kind of fun taking pictures of shiny stuff. Here's a guy on the left. This is a old coworker. We had to do corporate portraits for 300 people. And a lot of them still use them for their LinkedIn photos, which is kind of funny. And it was just like, let's have fun with it. And it was a really fun, fun project. How do we keep 300 people straight? How do we have people just go for it? And most people don't like to be in front of the camera, so it was a kind of fun exercise just in photography. When I'm so used to shooting stuff like the one on the right, the beautiful thing about shooting product in still life is it doesn't move. It doesn't get shy in front of the camera. It doesn't say no. It doesn't have to go to the bathroom. But it's you lose a little bit of the kind of spontaneity, and that's what I do try to like to do with some of my photography, is keep it spontaneous. And here's another little video of here. This is for recent work for Lavazza. It's all e-commerce work. Let's see. And that was work we were tapped to do. This is where it's a really fine line between wanting to make stuff that's really good and stuff that is within budget. This was like where we had very small budgets because it's e-commerce, it's not the brand work. So we're trying to maximize the ROI for your customer. Like, we want to do the best work we can, and we have constraints. Like, it's always like, good, fast, cheap. And so for some reason, everybody wants all three right now. It used to be you could have two, but it's not the way it is. And it's up to us just to provide what we can within our constraints and just make it as good as we can make it. Some more fun stuff here. This the company on the right was my own company, and unfortunately had to sell. And it was interesting because I had been on the brand side, I had been on the agency side, I had been on the publishing side, I'd been on the production side, but I was never my own client. And being your own client is really hard, but it helped me realize that sometimes you have to juggle between what the client wants, what creative needs, and what's actually feasible and practical. Doing stuff that, it's a funny thing when people say, oh, it's selling out. Like, it's not selling out. Sometimes it just is what it is, and you have to be okay with it. Lucky I get to work with Fuji a lot. They tapped me to the launch of their the GFX RF. Beautiful camera. I love shooting well-made things. Like the glasses on the right, the stuff for Caddis, like the better made it is, the easier it is to shoot. It's really beautiful stuff to shoot. The hardest stuff in the world to shoot is cheap plastic. It's really, really difficult shooting. White double wall plastic cups on white backgrounds is very difficult. Shooting a Tom Ford belt buckle is not hard at all. It lends itself to beautiful, beautiful photography. Going more light motion. It's crazy glue stuff was fun because we did a whole thing about kind of imperfection and having things that you used to. Everybody wants everything polished and beautiful, so it's kind of nice to have things a little imperfect sometimes. One left was just more of that same body armor job, and it just was a really fun dynamic. We all got pretty wet shooting this, and I did learn a lot working with this stylist. It's if you ever get a chance to look his work up, Brian Byrne is setanice.com. He's really one of the best liquid ice stylists in New York City. It's a pleasure to work with people like that. This stuff here is fun. Like, on set, the left one, this stylist was jumping between still and video the whole time. And we was like, what are we going to do? We had a bunch of color aid and some good hard lights. And we just were like, let's do it. Let's go. And we shot the stuff with no art direction, no reference, no anything. We just went, and they were really happy with how it came out. Again, on the right, beautiful stuff is easy to shoot. And back here, back to my own company again, it was like our whole idea for it was, share an ace, and it was a fun, it was a really fun time in my life to have something that I really cared about to work on. And that's what it was a good intersection of art and commerce for me, because I realized I had to sell it. Realized I was taking pictures of cheap plastic bottles and coffee beans and coffee bags, but I really, really cared about it. And then now with my own work for clients, I give them that same benefit of the doubt. I make sure I care about everything like it's my own. When people hand me a budget, I get crazy about how we can maximize it. How can I spend your money like it's my own money? And it's helped shape my career to a place now that I don't know if it's been beneficial or detrimental to me, just because I'm always thinking about the bottom line, but then I always want to do the best I can. So I end up kind of hurting myself sometimes, but if I'm okay with it. It's like, it's better than roofing. It's better than carrying heavy stuff. But it's still commerce. Here was this was a very low budget thing we got to do. Same thing, let's have an idea. Let's go for it. I feel like they should pay us more for this stuff, but again, e-commerce budgets are not what they used to be. Which brings us to next thing here, right? Art or commerce. The world needs art now more than ever. It really does. And with AI, we need art that people make, but it's hard to make art when you have to eat. It really is, so you make a decision, if art is purely what matters, don't do it for a living, right? Go be a plumber, go be a hedge fund guy, go be whatever. Don't be a commercial artist, because it changes it. It really does. It's commerce kind of chose me. It said, hey, we're making this available to you. You can pay your bills, you can have a family, you can live in New York City by doing this. And I'm really lucky, really thankful that I've done that. And I'm every day I'm happy about it. It's been kind of a playground. I've learned to manage studios. I've learned to run shoots. I've learned to work with huge budgets from no budgets, build sets, talk to my clients, meet people, and it's a joy. It really is. But it's a job. You know, it's one of the main things that I would tell, you know, younger people or anybody, right, is you listen before talking. Like our real job is creative problem solving. It really is. It's you know, client has a brief, they have needs. Don't think you know better than what the client's asking for. If they if you're not meeting your needs, you're not doing the job. And it's like commercial art is a service industry. It really is. And it's okay. You know, it's you know, if you don't, if you go to a restaurant, the food's not good, no one's gonna come back. If you're hard to work with, the client's not gonna call you back. So part of the biggest part of this is dealing with your clients and working with your clients. And planning. Planning's key. You know, the easy part is shooting. Really, the hard part is everything else. Every hour you shoot probably has 3 or 4 hours of planning. You know, set design, pre-pro, client collaboration, you know, all the behind the scenes planning makes life a lot easier. Like this shot here, this was a set we had to build. We had no money. We had some sheetrock and some wood, and we built this 3-dimensional huge set because there was a video component to this too. We had to block it out. So it was a 2-wall set with an island, and it was all practical, and it looks like a render, but it's not. And it was kind of one of the most fun things we got to do, you know, and part of the planning is thinking about retouching. When you make your shot lists, have your end game in mind when you start. You have to think 4th dimensionally. Think about in the future what someone's going to ask you to fix. You could fix it in camera and shoot plates so that when you're compositing, it makes life a lot easier. Like we shot this job with Matthew Ralston, great photographer. It was Carrie Underwood. And somebody wasn't paying attention, and it was like, you know, oh, straighten these cushions out in post. Oh, we forgot to shoot her in front of a mirror for the back of her head when they wanted to put her in a bathroom with a mirror. So stuff that would have taken not even 5 minutes on set was 20 to 30 hours of retouching. And it was those little lessons I learned I take with me. Like, I don't want to spend 30 hours retouching for something that I can do in 5 seconds on set. You know what you don't know, right? Self-taught doesn't mean you know it all, and really don't be cheap where it hurts. Like, you kids really do have it good. Like, there used to be a ton of gatekeeping. Like, everybody wants to share now. Lighting setups, dim sum spots, everything, right? Like, you guys love to share, and it's awesome. Like, just really don't share surf spots. Like, that's not cool. That said, there's really no replacement for your practical skills. Like, if you have a chance to be on set, assist, whatever it is, do it. Just take it. Even if you don't get paid much, if you're parking trucks or getting coffee, just be on set. When you're on set, don't be on your phone. Just be the one who's paying attention, and you'll be the one asked to help, and you learn just a lot. I've self-taught. That's how I learned all my stuff, was just being ready to jump in. Little things, how to use a C-stand, how to put sandbags down. Don't wear red, you know, little stuff that you don't think about, that if you know what you're doing, people are like, oh, this person's great, they'll call you back. Don't be cheap where it hurts is like, trust experts. Sometimes you have to spend money. Sometimes you have to hire an expert. Hiring my accountant was the best thing I ever did for my business. It really was. It gives me good advice. It was more money than everything else. But it's the best decision I ever made for my business, because otherwise I would be broke right now. I would have violated some financial laws or whatever, and nobody needs that. Goes back to, photography is a business if you're doing it for a living, and cash flow is king. You know, this is one thing that I really was a hard lesson on the agency end. You know, it's like a lot of clients now pay it at 90, and you have to pay everybody at 30 or less. And it's daunting. You know, really make sure you add production fees up front. And if someone asks you to take it off, you can take it off, but you can never add it. You can't add a pad. You know, budgeting, planning, how much is your shoot going to cost you? Your scheduling, your overhead, everything, it's all math. You know, we're not doing this. It's not pro bono photography. You know, think about how much your financing costs you. Like, if you have to put everything on a credit card, make sure you have enough money in the job to pay the interest. On business end of it, like, what's the ROI for your client, right? What are your creative needs and their financial needs. Like, you can't let yourself get mired in making everything perfect, especially now that we're being called content creators. You know, the volume of content doesn't allow for perfection. And it helps when you can manage those expectations up front. You know, you say, you know, this is what we have to work with. And I think people would rather hear that than be disappointed. You know, it's easier to surprise them and make them happy than it is to disappoint them. Comes back into here. Trust is implied. It really is. Like, if anybody ever says you can trust me, like, don't trust them. It's broken trust is one of the hardest things to do. You know, it's commitment is everything. If you commit to it and do what you say you're going to do, and being reliable is what builds trust, and it makes clients come back to you because they know you'll do it and they know you're going to succeed. And that's ultimately all anybody wants. Nobody wants a problem, right? Nobody wants to fix things. You know, fake it till you make it, right? It really works. Like, I've committed to a bunch of stuff now that I don't know how to do. And I'm in the midst of trying to build an AI-driven B2B digital sales funnel because I told someone, sure, I can figure that out. And I'm not scared of it. And let's see. Say hindsight is 2020. It really is. My whole life, right? If you had to say something, you know, what's the best piece of advice I could give to anybody? It would probably be that you know, don't be afraid to make a wrong decision. Really, like, any decision, you're moving forward. Momentum is one of the hardest things to accomplish in life. And to start again from a stop is almost impossible. It's way easier to change directions as long as you have momentum. And mistakes happen, right? Growth is what happens when you show someone and yourself how you deal with mistakes, problems. Anything happens, like shit happens. It really does. And you know, it's sharing that with people, like, you know, having mentorship, like whatever you can do just to keep moving forward. That's kind of my whole life, what's driven me. Like, I'm, you know, I never finished college. I never had any real training other than just going for it and getting my hands dirty, pulling up my sleeves, and never saying die. And I think had I been stuck and had paralysis of choice, I might not be here. Like, I really might not. I might not be doing the same things, and I might not be so happy. So, you know, I think that the bad times help drive the good. And let's hear it. This is it. Smoke them if you got them, right? Experiment, fail, commit, just keep going on. Just, you know, that's what we do. Just keep on going, keep on going. I learn the craft and the business, right? Like, it's both, you know, and hopefully you can marry them to a place that is successful for you. Collaboration, really trust your team. Once you get a good team, anything you can do to keep it together. Like, a lot of my collaborators are my best friends, and I'm really happy to work with them. And they make everything better. They make my life easier. I hope I make their life easier. It makes the work better when you have people that you respect and like to work with. You know what you don't know, and don't be afraid to learn. Really, like, you know, having a guy for that. That's what I like to joke about and say. And I like to be that guy. If somebody calls me, like, oh yeah, sure, you know, no problem. I'll try to figure it out. And I feel like it's that attitude which propels me forward. Like, even if I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sure as hell gonna try to figure it out. And again, it's like, do what you say you're gonna do. It really, even if it costs you a little bit, in time or money or whatever it is, you can't put a dollar amount on trustworthiness or just on being dependable. Like, that is something that my whole life I've been dependable, and it's come back to me, in spades. It's really been something that's helped keep my career and keep me employed and, just keep me happy, right? Like I sleep well at night knowing that I'm not lying to anybody about anything. Let's see. So I think this is about all I have here on my presentation. So really, I thank you for your time and just enjoy the ride. Like every day, every day is a gift. I like being here. So let's see. What do I do here now?
Hey, Mike, that was great. You can stop sharing your screen and we'll have a little conversation. Hello, everyone. Those of you who don't know me, I'm David Major. I chair the photography department here at the New York Film Academy. And again, Michael, thank you so much for being here and walking us through your career, essentially. And before we get going really with the conversation, I want to encourage our viewers, if you have questions, please utilize the Q&A function. It'll be on the bottom of your Zoom screen and send in those questions. There was a lot that Mike talked about. I have a whole bunch of questions myself. So, supplement that by putting in your stuff. So, like the first question I have for you is, where are your secret surf spots?
Not telling.
Yeah, okay. No, that was great. I mean, I love that whole idea of sort of being open and sharing everything. It's how we learn, and even those of us that are doing the sharing, I think, learn by it also because we get feedback that way too. Um,
Yeah.
and what I loved hearing from you is just how diverse your background really is. Like the number of different things you've done and decided, like, yeah, I can do that. I'm going to tackle that. I'm going to figure that out. You know, I think that's so encouraging for our students, especially to hear, because oftentimes, they're like, okay, this is the only thing I want to do. I just want to take this one path. And then real life hits, right? And you sort of have to figure out ways around or doing that. And it's good to hear from somebody who's gone through that kind of process of, okay, this is working for now. I'm here for 17 years now. I got to do something different. Okay, yeah, fantastic. Like, and just being open to that is really, really cool.
As you know, as long as it doesn't if you can live with it, it's that's a thing, and it's a lot of people are like, oh, this is selling out. This is no, it's not. It's fine. It's like, we can, as long as you can live with yourself, it's fine, and it's like part of learning is like touch on something you just said, with like the sharing is like we're older, right? Like we're used to gatekeeping. We're used to having to the old school term of paying your dues. Like that was terrible. It was like really, it was terrible, but it also worked because you didn't expect to show up and know everything. And there was a pecking order. It was definitely a lot ruder. People were a lot meaner about it, but there was a sense of, creative director, art director, senior designer, junior designer, intern. There was this really, people weren't going to school to be art directors. They weren't going to school to be creative directors. If you're a photographer, you're expected to start as a PA, maybe if you're lucky, you'd be a second assistant, a first assistant, a gaffer. Like there was this sense of working way up a ladder. And I feel like even now, like 30 years into doing this professionally, I still assist. I love it. I just like being on set. And sometimes I see something and I'm like, like that makes a lot of sense. And you see stuff and it's like, again, like if people are on their phone, like I have my daughter's friends, boyfriends and stuff will assist sometimes. And, they're high school kids from art and design and they'll come in and I'm like, listen, put your phone down, bring a notebook, write everything down, write down people's names, write down the clients' coffee orders, every single thing, just write it down. And you remember it. And don't be on your phone. I had to yell at this kid a couple of times. Get off your phone. He finally put his phone down and he realized, he's like, you're right. He's like, I really remember every single thing. And, you show somebody like, oh, I know how to use C-stand. I'm like, no, you don't know how to use a C-stand. Please, like, this is how you use a knuckle. This is how you use this. Like, just trust me, you don't know what you're doing. And like, finally, you get these kids like, oh yeah, I watched a YouTube video on this. Doesn't matter. Like it's dangerous what you're doing. And like having that sense of knowing what you don't know. It's like a really smart, it's something that a lot of people don't know. And it's like, that's the first thing to know what you don't know. And again, like I still love being on set. I love shooting. I helped somebody out the other day, and I was just like, oh, you want to drive a box truck? I'm like, sure, no problem. Like it was so nice to be on set and not be responsible for anything except driving
Mm,
a box truck. It was great.
right. Sure. You know, what's nice about what you just said too, I think is it really speaks to the idea of lifelong learning, where,
Mhm,
you know, admitting that, okay, I do have a lot of knowledge, but I can always learn more,
mhm,
right? No matter what it is you're doing. You think you're an expert in Photoshop, somebody else is doing something just a little differently that you can
mhm,
always learn from. And the same thing with being on set, right? There's, you know, there's not just one way to use a C stand.
mhm,
I do it one way, you do it another way, somebody else does it a third way. And the more open you are to recognizing that and learning that, it just fills your toolbox, you know, in a
mhm,
way that won't happen if you're very just sort of stay in your lane. So
mhm.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the toolbox is the biggest thing about it, and that's what makes you more valuable as somebody looking for work. It's like, because right now I can shoot anything from something this big to a house, and whatever it is, I can light it because of my toolbox is pretty vast. Like, and just looking at stuff, and I try to light stuff really simply, one or two lights, like make sure your light motivates from what should be a real source, stuff that like is foundational. Whereas like I work with some people where more lights and everything, and I'm just like, what do you like? Come on, less is more. Come on, and like it ends up being. I've worked with enough people like, oh wow, this is one light. I'm like, yeah, it's one light and two cards, and it looks great. And it's like that thing where even these are friends of mine who've been working with for 20 years plus, and like, this is pretty good. Like, I like this, and we share a lot. Share a lot of that.
So let's talk about that. Well, let's change direction just for a little bit. Um, you know, you talked about at one point when after that sort of long stint on the agency side, you were starting up again and started reaching out to, I guess, your past networks. And that was sort of helping. What I took from that is that that definitely helped your career transition
Mhm.
because you had those folks. Can you talk a little bit, especially to our students, about the power of that network? And that also applies, I think, to the crew that you work with. You mentioned, you know, finding a good crew. Well, that's got to be part of your creative process too, where you can then bounce these ideas off of them. So just spend a little couple minutes just walking us down that idea.
That kind of goes back to what I said just about doing what you say you're going to do, right? Be reliable. Where
Mm.
if I had been unreliable at any one of these places I've been, I wouldn't have, maybe they wouldn't have taken my call, or they wouldn't have trusted me with a big job that I needed when I was striking out kind of on my, how to pay all my own bills, for lack of better words, right? So I think that that's one of the biggest parts about, building a network, is being reliable, be somebody that people know they can count on, be somebody that, is, you know, you think about little, and like one of the agency I was at, one of the biggest things I learned and took from that was, think about your client, right? They're not, you know, we were a Coca-Cola agency, and we weren't allowed to have Pepsi products in the office, or Frito-Lay. And people would be offended. They'd be like, oh my God, this is, I can't believe this. And the owner was like, no, this is the hand that feeds us. You don't bite it. And he respected the clients. He didn't treat them like a paycheck. He treated them like somebody that was worthy of our respect. And it drove that home to me, because it made me realize, like, anybody you come in contact with in your career, they could be some creative director or some CMO, or they could be working on some startup. You never know who's going to end up somewhere else. So you just treat everybody like you want to be treated. And eventually, it works or it doesn't. Like it's not being mercenary about it, not being somebody who's always just looking for what they can get out of somebody, but treating somebody like somebody you want to be around. And it was, you know, I used to always bring pastries to shoots. I would be the DJ and stuff, that like little things that, think about the coffee, you think about just little stuff that makes everybody's life a little bit nicer, and it pays itself back. It really does. And like it, it's, it just, it's more pleasant way to spend your day,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, check your attitude at the door and
Mhm.
come in and work hard and be kind to everybody. Like, I think it's a great way to sort of go through life. You know,
Yeah.
it's really good. Um, So let's talk about your crew or the folks that you typically work with. You mentioned that you've been working with the same folks for a long time.
Mhm.
Um, for those emerging photographers, like how do you find that? How do you build that kind of rapport?
I think it's even now, like I do a lot of tests all the time. I'll do stuff where like if there's younger stylists or younger art directors, whoever, I'm just like, yeah, come shoot, whatever. Like, because it helps me too. It's like sometimes you don't have time to figure it out on set. You want to make sure you know what you're doing. So, and then it gives you another way, so you meet some people along the way, meet people. Um, and again, it goes back to like being somebody that people want to be around, right? If you are if you're kind of a jerk, people aren't going to want to be around you. So if you're working with people, you work in relationships and you say, okay, yeah, let's do this, let's do that. Like you end up going and have a drink, so you can do this, and like if they're working on a project, they'll bring you in, and you end up just, again, it's assisting or whatever it is. And if you meet a great stylist to be like, oh yeah, I'd love to assist you. I'll work for whatever cheap, if you need me to carry your, it's like back in the day, you would, carry the DJ's records to get into the club for free. It's kind of that same thing, it's like sure, I'll carry your gear to hang out on set. And, assisting rates used to be like, what is it? You were stoked to get $200 a day. That was a good day. And, assistants now are like, it's like $400 a day or 450. So, um, if you offer to work cheaper, you can build this crew of people so that when you do get a paying job, you can start shopping your work around and show people and say, here, this is what we can do. But just make sure you know how to price it. I mean, that's the hard part now with the industry, is that there's so many people doing it that they're just giving unrealistic prices. If somebody's at home, they don't have any expenses and they can do a job cheaper, they get the work, but then that's the price point, and it drives the pricing down. And the whole industry, like especially with AI, it's hard. You can't tell somebody who's younger like, oh, you use this great work starting out, but it's too cheap. And then that's what
So
happens, is that you have people who have expectations. They see somebody's work on Instagram, it looks great, but they don't know what's behind it, and that person can't run a job. They can't um, deal with clients, deal with sets, deal with permits, all the stuff that goes into producing a job, and then they fall on their face. So it's that whole pipeline of assisting and working your way through. It's the stuff, the intangibles that are hard to learn, and
yeah, totally agree. I totally agree with that. And actually, that brings up a question that I was going to ask you. You mentioned a bunch about sort of the e-commerce world and how rates are definitely different than they were even, I'm sure, like 5 years ago, right? I think probably pre-pandemic, things were very different than they are today. But so again, for thinking about this for emerging photographers, and this is really for our students, where do they get that information to base their estimates on? Like what kind of resources can they rely on? Who can they go to sort of talk about what's happening in the industry right now?
I mean, that's tough. Just like it's producers, agents, there's a bunch of there's like if somebody's young, they call a lot of these agents. A lot of the agents are really, they like to see, they like to see people succeed, because if people succeed, they succeed. So agents are always a good one to reach out. And I don't know if the little book show, it's still somehow still going, but you can go to the book and go to the show and talk to agents and talk to people. And it's just about going to try to go to industry stuff. And even on Instagram, there's some, you'll probably know what it is, but it's like what is it called? A photo editor or something like that. They have um, estimates and invoices and stuff. So it's all out there. But again, it's hard to be able to present yourself as a professional unless you know how to really run a job, because then clients have an expectation. If they're spending X thousand a day, they expect that professionalism.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. No, I'm a huge fan of encouraging students to start by assisting.
Mhm.
You got to learn the industry. So in school, you learn, how to make images, but then you got to learn how to produce images. And
Yep.
they're two totally different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
That,
it's
that's
really
that's
important.
definitely the hard part of it. And like, and it's like the content creator is I hate that term, because it's kind of commodified what we do, the art, into just, creation. So now it's devalued it, not saying it's without worth, but it's definitely the days of somebody spending $100,000 for a day for you to shoot, to have an image that's going to run a 360 campaign. It's going to be on bus shelters, and the train and magazine covers and billboards. That's gone, right? Like, it's now the social media is the primary, and the campaign work is almost secondary. So it's it used to, if, Gucci would shoot 3 times a year, right? And that was the way it was. And then now they expect content every day, every week. It can't be the same, and it's just a churn. So it's impossible. When we were at the e-commerce studio, it was funny because I had some people working there, and we're talking, and then somebody's like, "Oh, this is really cynical," and I'm like, "Listen, like, the way I put it was, I was like, we're digital ditch diggers, right? Somebody's going to hand you a shovel every day. You're going to come in, and you got to dig that hole out, like, spend your whole day dig, 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 and you're going to be like, sweet, that hole's empty. You're going to come in next day, and the hole's going to be full again, and every single day." And they were like, "Oh, so you're saying our work is worthless?" I'm like, "No, it's not worthless. Like, you have to have the mindset of like, I'm going to do the best work possible within the constraints every day, and just keep going, because the work's never going to end. And it's fun work to do. Like, it's not a bad thing. Like, and you get to make, it's my first job was in weekly publishing. So every week we were making magazines, bang, 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 bang. And we can make mistakes. You learn stuff. That's how I learned how to retouch. That's how I learned how to design. I learned everything because we had such a high churn rate that it didn't matter. It wasn't precious. So to treat e-commerce photography like it's precious, you're doing yourself a disservice. Like, it should still be good. You should put your best effort towards it, but to treat it like it's a work of art, no, it's like you're taking pictures of plastic stuff to sell on Amazon. Like, it is what it is. And like, you can learn it's almost very freeing, because you can make mistakes and be like, you see something, you're like, it wasn't so good. And then the email campaign goes out and it's gone, and no one ever thinks about it again. So it kind of, the impermanence is kind of fun.
Yeah, I could totally see that. But I also think, it sort of goes back to something you said early on in your presentation about, I think it might have actually been your first slide, you're just happy to wake up every day,
Mhm.
right? And so, in an e-commerce situation, okay, you're not making art, but you're getting paid to make photographs, right? You're getting paid to make images. Like, and that's not a bad thing at
No, it's not
all,
bad.
Like,
It's
it
it's pretty great, and it's artistic. It's art adjacent, right? You get to work with stylists or artists, right? Photographers, we're artists, but if I'm making e-commerce, it's not making art, and I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. It's like, for my personal art right now, I haven't touched a camera for myself probably since my kids were small, since I stopped shooting film when it got too expensive. And I cook. That's my art now. And like, I feel like it's something that the rest of my life I'm going to get better and better and better at. It's something I want to share with people. And each technique, like every little knife thing I learn, every single, I learn a new sauce or learn something new, I'm like reinvigorated every day to be like, oh, I want to make this better. I'm like, oh, this is the best thing I ever tasted. Oh my God, where I still have that love in my heart for photography, but I'm not compelled to do it because, like, I like to joke that, like, plumbers don't go home and play with wrenches, right? So it's
yeah,
like, if I'm not paid for it, I really kind of, it's hard for me to want to pick up my camera, even though I love it. I really, and like, I wish film was cheaper to shoot. I would shoot film. It's like when Costco
yeah.
stopped processing, when Costco stopped $6 machine prints, that's when I stopped shooting film. So
All right. So one other question for you. Let's talk about, I want to hear more about liquid stylists.
mhm.
Tell me
it's
what that
it's
looks like.
it's really cool. The guy's like, we talk about our bag of tricks. This guy's got a huge bag of tricks. He has like rigs for everything, and like, little motion piezoelectric triggers, and the way we got that splash around the bottle, he had little laser cut plexi stuff hit, so when it hits it, it fans a certain way. And it was
Mm.
it's a really specific skill set. It really is. And it's like he works with some great photographers, and the stuff you see him do, I'm just like, wow. I'm like, and it's fun working with people like that on set, because you get to see that and be like, oh, that makes, I get it. Like, and it, now when I shoot liquid stuff, I kind of know, nowhere near as good as him, but I kind of have it in my brain how to make liquid move a certain way, or how to make, like, you take some plexiglass and you just heat gun and you bend it and make little scoops and funnels, and so that when it pours, it has, it's all, it's fun. It's really fun and stuff because it's got motion. It has, like, even in a still photograph, it looks like motion. Like, that's what I like to do with
Absolutely.
shadows. I like to have stuff moving your eye across an image, and yeah,
That's so cool. Really fun. There used to be, and they still sell some of the stuff at the set shop.
Mhm.
Studio called Trend Grove Studios.
Yep, yeah,
Did you
those
know
guys
those
are cool
guys? Yeah. And so they used to make acrylic pours and do
Mhm.
exactly what you were talking about, creating the shapes so that you would get a certain arc or curve
Mhm.
to the liquid that was moving. It was super fun. Really cool stuff.
Yeah, that was
Cool. All right.
I got to work with some really good when I was at my agency. We had Anheuser-Busch budgets, so we got to work with some just great photographers and seeing stuff. And I was like, this guy Mark Leda, really good liquid guy, and some of his stuff I was like, wow, like, this is how you do it. Like, this is like being on set, just seeing, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense to me. Here's beer pours and just beautiful, and this is shooting on, shooting all film and shooting chrome, and it was just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. And it wasn't like now where you could be like, bang out, you're banging, I don't know, 1,500 frames a day now. We were like, a big day then, you were shooting like, I don't know, 20 rolls or 30 rolls was a big day. So
Right. Right. Yeah, that's true. And I guess to sort of close it up, at the end, you said something that I think is really, really important for both emerging photographers, but everybody, which was don't be afraid to make a wrong decision. And
mhm.
that's such a great, I mean, I think that's a great mantra in and of itself, just be willing to take those risks. And don't be afraid to fail, because that's part of the learning curve, right? It's part of the process of, like you've been saying, okay, I'm just gonna figure it out, and it's all good.
Yeah, it really is. It really is like the, um, like, I think failure is when you stop moving or stop trying. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if total failure is when you're just like defeated, like defeat is failure. So
Mhm.
as long as you can keep getting up and moving forward and moving towards the goal, you're still winning, and it's like, it's like, I think I said something, it's like everything's 50-50, right? It's going to work or it won't. And even if it kind of works, it's still working. Like, you can take that kind of works and move it towards it totally works. If you take that kind of works and just be like, I'm done with this, and you give up, it still kind of works, but you're not happy with it, and there's no movement, there's no progression, and there's no getting to where you want to be. And it's like, sometimes stuff just doesn't work. Like, it's okay. And you can be like, what's the old saying, right? Throwing good money after bad, right? Or bad. Yeah. Like, you can't just stopping. Like, sometimes we'll do something on set and we'll spend an hour trying to make it perfect and trying to light it and try, like, if 20 stands up and like plexiglass and reflectors and everything all over the place, and then it's just not working. And I've worked with some people who are like, no, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. And I'm like, no, stop. We're going to stop. We're going to take everything off the set, reset our brains, and do it again. And it makes it like, that's not failure. That's just knowing when to be like, this isn't working. So, and
Yeah.
stuff like that is that's just born of volume, of being like, I got 40 shots to do today. I have 6 minutes a shot. This is it. We're over. We're now working into we don't have money for another day. We don't have money for overtime, all this stuff. So it's just keeping it in your head and knowing when to, like, just shift gears and turn.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, great. So we are at the top of the hour. Mike, I want to thank you so much for this. A great conversation. Really enjoyed chatting with you about this and love seeing the work.
It was great,
I'm,
Mike. Thank you
yeah,
so much.
Thank
Really.
you.
yeah, that's the Nancy voice of God coming in. It's perfect. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah. And honestly, Mike, I hope this is the beginning of conversations for us. I think, you've got a lot to offer, and I really love the way you think about things and sound, hearing how you move through the world. So hopefully we'll do this again.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for being
Don't
here,
forget-
and we will
Bye.
see you soon.